Hi everybody, it's Karen from Glaze Craze. I am here today to show you how to make a clay bowl or plate from simple paper plates and bowls. Makes it really easy. I'll show you some examples that are kind of hiding off screen here. We've got our strawberry bowl. Sorry, I'm just checking out my camera up there, so make sure it's easy to see everything. And you can make an apple bowl. Great for the fall. Rosh Hashanah, good for putting honey in. You can make a heart bowl. This is good any time of year. And you can make animals. Really fun for the kids. Although I have to say the most popular shape that we have in store is the unicorn. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to show you today how to make the bowls. And show you a few tricks to get all of the different samples that I showed you here. This is just a standard Royal Chinette bowl. Any paper bowl will work. I've used other brands too, and as long as it's a nice sturdy paper bowl, it's going to be fine. You don't want anything too flimsy, but they don't really make bowls that flimsy if it's made out of paper. Okay, so let me just get out some clay. Okay, that might not be quite enough. I might need a little bit more. I might be wrong. Ooh. Shaking my table. Okay, so any clay you're not using, always keep it wrapped up and sealed so that the air can't get at it. We are going to start by rolling out our clay, and just like we show in all of our other videos with clay here, there's a special way to make sure that you roll it so that it turns out flat and even. So you roll it a little bit one way, you pick it up, you flip it, you roll it again. And you're going to just keep doing that, picking it up, flipping, rolling again. And our goal is to make it bigger than your bowl, and also about the same thickness as an Oreo cookie. You don't want it to be a double stuffed Oreo, you don't want it to be a thin Oreo, you want regular Oreo cookie thickness. Hopefully that's all the thickness you're familiar with. It usually is a pretty good one, I find. Most people know what an Oreo cookie is. Okay. And I'm getting a little wide here. I did cut out more clay than I needed, so we're going to put some of that aside. I'm still a little too thick, so I'm going to roll a little bit more. I'm definitely large enough at this point for what I'm needing, but it is too thick. Okay, there we go. So, now that I've got my slab of clay, I am going to take my hotel key card here, credit cards, debit cards, gift cards, anything like that works. These are actually some of my favorite non-clay tools that work well with clay. You're going to take this and we're going to smooth it out. And I know I show this in all of the videos that we have to do this with clay, which is most of them these days. I just want to go over it again in case you haven't seen them. So when you're doing this, we are basically running the card along the clay one way, and then we flip it and we run it along a different direction. Now, to make sure that you're applying the right amount of pressure and you're doing this the right way, because we don't want to be scraping clay off, you are going to be doing it at a very specific angle. So if you did it right 90-degree angle and you did this on your arm, it would scratch, it would hurt. We don't want that to happen. You're going to put it so that it's flatter and that you can press all the pressure that you want on there and just it glides across your arm and it doesn't hurt. That's the angle that you're wanting the tool to be at. So now that I've done both sides on one, I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to do both sides, or sorry, both directions on the other side. Okay, and the reason we do this is because once we put it into our bowl form and it starts to dry, it could warp the shape and it won't be quite as perfect as we want. So I'm going to put my bowl upside down on there, and I'm not cutting it right to the same size as my bowl because I need it to be a little bit wider than that because of the depth it needs a little bit of extra clay. So I'm cutting about an inch wider than my bowl, which is probably more than I need, but it's a safe amount to go with. And it just gets rid of the extra clay that I definitely don't need. So we're going to ball that up, put that over there. Now, the best way to do this, I find, is to stick your hand under the surface that you're doing, whether it's a pillowcase, a t-shirt, a foam mat, doesn't matter. And then you can flip it like that. You put it down, and you can kind of peel the clay off of the mat. And you can put the mat back down if you want to protect your surface, by all means. And when you're doing this, and let's see, I don't know if you can see it on my higher camera there, we're just kind of coaxing it down a little bit. And it's not going super far down with this part, but you can see it does definitely have quite a bowl shape just doing it like that. And then once I've got it as far as I can do it like that, then I'm going to start pressing it. And I don't actually have it here. It's a tool I forgot to grab, and I'm not quite sure where it is because we've been cleaning up in the store here and everything's everywhere. So I'm not going to bother trying to run and grab it. But if you can fill a nice old sock with rice, it makes the best tool for pressing down the center of this bowl. So you can use your fingers too. You just have to be careful that you do it very gently because you don't want to put fingerprints into it, and you definitely don't want to poke a hole through it. So you're just very gently stretching the clay, and you want to go down until you can feel the pressure from the bottom of the bowl. If you don't go all the way down, your bowl isn't going to sit flat. It's going to rock on the table. So we want to press it down really good. And I go all the way around to make sure my sides are all pressed really well as well. If you've got any spots that need smoothing, now is the time. Okay, so I've got that all the way down to the bottom of my bowl. And now you just want to make sure your edges are pressed down against the edge of the bowl as well. And we're going to take our tool and we're going to trim that extra clay. So I like to kind of go in till I hit the edge of the bowl, and then I just follow the edge of the bowl around. And the trick is to keep the tool straight up and down. If you do it at an angle, you're going to cut in deeper than you're wanting. So keep it nice and straight up and down. And just work your way around. If it's not sitting flat against the edge of that bowl, then you're going to get weird things happening. So keep it nice and flat, and you can see I'm kind of pressing it down right before the tool gets to that point with my other hand here. There we go. Now, you can do this step at the very end. You can also do it now. It depends on what shape that you're doing. If you're doing anything that's got some complex shapes to it, you might want to do this step now just so that it doesn't get in the way later. I take my sponge. I've got a bowl of water here that's kind of off screen. You're going to dip it in the water, squeeze all the water out of it till there's no more water, because you just want it damp. You don't want it wet. And we're going to very gently smooth out our edges there. Okay. Like I said, you can do this part at the very end, but like some of the bowls, like the strawberry and the apple, even the heart, or the cat actually, they can be problematic for doing this later. So I'm also doing the inside of my bowl here. It actually gets rid of the small spots that my fingers left. You want to get the worst of the lumps and the bumps and the cracks smooth with just your finger without using the sponge. But the sponge can be good to get in there and just give it that final buff that you're looking for. Okay, so I've got my bowl already ready to go there. Now, which shape are we going to start with here? So the heart is literally, you're going to take your clay on the edge there, you're going to lift up the rim, and you can see on the heart here, we're just pushing it down. And on the other side, you're kind of pushing it up into that point. So, I can see it that well in the video there, but then you're pinching it. So that's, It looks a little lopsided for some reason when I'm filming it there, but it looks good to me in person. Anyway, I'm going to flatten that back out because I want to show you all the other ones too. So that's the heart bowl. That one's pretty easy. The apple is actually very similar to it in that you're going to pull in that center part just like you did with the heart, except instead of just leaving it like that, you kind of pinch it closed, just like you would for the bottom of the heart, but you're doing it on the inside. And then you do the exact same thing and kind of pinch it closed a little bit on the other side. And it does kind of come in a little bit while you're doing it, so you just push it back down, but you want to make sure you get those points so that the points don't get in the way, but they definitely still are there. The top of the apple, you're going to want a little bit wider just because you need to fit the stem and the leaf. And to do those, you are going to take another chunk of clay, and first thing you're going to do is you're going to roll out a log. So first thing, actually I should explain how to do a log properly here, so that, because not everybody knows how to do it as easily as I do. You can take a clay, roll it into a ball, then you roll it into a log. I find it ends up a lot more even if you do it this way. So you can roll it in your hands like this, you can roll it on the table, and when you're rolling it on the table, a lot of people just do part of their hand, and I find it turns into an oval, and it's not, it starts having this real thump to it as it's rolling. You want to go from the tips of your finger all the way down to the edge of your hand, and you just go back and forth. And that's the best way to get a nice round one when you're rolling it out like that. Then you take your tool and you're going to trim it to the size that you're wanting. And it does flatten it out a little bit, so you might want to go back in and just kind of clean it up a little bit. And then you're going to take the side that looks the ugliest and you're going to score some lines with your tool. And we're going to dip our finger in the water. We're going to get it wet. And then you're going to do that on the outside edge of your bowl there too. So get my finger wet. You're going to score some lines. You're going to get it wet. And then when we squish, I don't know if you can see it here, you're going to kind of wiggle and squish it onto the piece so that it's good and stuck on there. Okay? So it looks like that. Then to do the leaf, you're going to take another ball of clay, and I'd say it's a good sized cherry size. That's kind of what you're going for. Okay? You want it to be a fairly decent round ball. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you want it close. And to do the leaf, you're going to put it in your hand, in the very middle of your palm, okay? Not on the edges. You want it very middle of your palm, the lowest point on your palm. And you're going to take your other hand and you're squish and flatten it out. Just like that. And you can see that it's thicker in the middle, thinner on the edges. Now, to do the leaf, you're going to fold that into a canoe. And there's your leaf. Okay? And then you're literally going to do the same thing we did with the stem. You're going to score some lines. You're going to score some lines. You get it wet. And then you're going to wiggle and squish it on there. And then you've got your apple bowl. Okay? Now I'm going to take that stuff off just because we're going to do the other ones too. So the strawberry here is similar. The top is done the same way as the apple. Same leaves, but you're doing 3 across instead of beside it. And the top is done the same way as the apple bowl when you're shaping it too. So it's exactly the same as the apple bowl. The bottom is a little bit different, so I'll show you that. So let me just flatten out my bowl again there and get it as close to what it was. The more you play with it, the more it thins out. So you want to be careful and decide which one you're doing before you start making it. So with the strawberry bowl, you're going to lift up a little bit of a section here, and then you're going to lift up 2 more sections so that it creates that little foot there. And then I find that you want to kind of angle up the sides just a little bit more so it really defines that strawberry shape. Okay? There you go. So that is the strawberry. And I'm going to fold that back down again because we've got more bowls to go. The next one is the unicorn. So the eyes, you can just leave those if you want. You can paint those on, but I personally like to draw them in because it makes it easier to paint. Because when you get to doing the painting, you can literally use a toothpick to push the paint into those lines, and it doesn't tend to escape the lines as much as if you're trying to do it freehand later. So to do the eyes, well, actually, I'll get back to the eyes here. Let's focus on the other parts. So the ears, you're going to take 2 balls of clay that are the same size. Okay, so roll them into balls. They don't have to be perfect balls. You just want to make sure that they're the same size. So make sure they're the same. If they're not, make sure that they are. So take some clay off of one or add some to the other. Doesn't matter. Whatever works. And now we're going to roll it a little bit into a log so that it's a bit more long than it is round. And the top edge, you're going to roll a little bit more than the bottom edge so that it becomes more like a cone. Okay? And from there, you just flatten it. You can flatten it on the table with your palm. You can use your fingers and squish it flat. Doesn't matter. And then I usually go in with my thumb, and I really kind of push in and use the shape of my thumb to make the inside of the ear. Okay? So, just like that. And you're going to do that 2 times. So, roll it into a ball, slightly into a log, and then you're going to very gently roll it to a point. Okay, and you can see it's definitely not pretty shape really per se at this point. Then flatten it. Flattening really is what fixes all of that rough stuff. And then you're going to push your thumb in. Okay, so then you have 2 matching ears. And you're going to score the backs of them, glue them on, just like that. Okay, and to make the horn, it's actually very similar. So you're going to take another ball of clay, you roll it into a ball, you're going to roll it into an even longer oval, but you don't want to make it too skinny because this is going to get knocked really easily and you don't want it to break later. So you don't want to make a really big, skinny, long horn. You want to make it kind of chunky. So you can see mine has some heft to it there, okay? And this is already longer than I want it to be. I'm going to trim it. So I look at here, I want it to be about the same height as my ears, maybe just a little bit bigger. And I'm going to take my tool here, I don't know if you can see, I'm going to just chop it off. Okay, and then clean up the clay that has flattened out a little bit there. And then the tool is going to be used to add to the swirl around the horn. So I literally line it up with the edge there, and then I just kind of roll it along my tool so it does that. I hope that was clear for everybody to see. If it's not, let me know. I will do a second video that shows you that a little bit more close up so that you can see it better. And then you're going to score, add the water, and glue that in place. Now, we also did a flower there. I'll show you how to do that. So that is 2 pieces of clay. So you're going to have 1 small little ball of clay. So just a tiny little one. And then you're going to have 1 ball that's just a little bit bigger than that. So you can see the size difference there. Okay. The big one I'm going to flatten out, and you want it to just make it a somewhat round disc there. So it's got some thickness to it. That's okay. And you're going to take the tool and you're going to, how many sides did I put on that? It's 5-sided, so 5 lines. And you're just kind of pressing it in there. I hope you can see what I'm doing. So I'm just pressing it in. To make the petals on this flower. Okay? And then I'm going to take my ball, and actually I'm realizing this is a little big. I'm going to make it smaller. I'm going to roll it out again there. Okay, you want it to be basically the same size as your flower center there when it's flat. So remember, it gets bigger when you flatten it out. So I'm still too big there, actually. I'm going to make it even smaller. And then We flatten it out. See, mine's starting to crack because I've been playing with it so much here. Get a little bit of water in it. Not only will it help it join, but it will smooth out some of those cracks that get really bad. Oh, and my sections is joining itself back together. Okay, so there's my flower, and then you're going to just score the back of it the same way we've done and put it on there. Now the eyes, just have to be careful because I didn't actually glue these on. Actually, I'm going to take all my parts off here because I'm still have one more animal to go. So it's just doing kind of a half moon. You can see that in the video. On both sides, do the 2 lines first. There. So you get your 2 lines. And then you just add a couple lines on the end for eyelashes. Okay? Pretty simple, right? Hopefully. If I'm doing anything too complex, let me know, guys. I will happily go over things again in another video and show it a bit more clearly. Since these aren't live, it's hard to ask me questions, I know. But I'm mass filming a bunch of these together here today so that I don't have to come into the store very often. Okay, so let me just smooth out my eyes that I did on that one so we can do our last bowl, which is our kitty cat. Okay. And this one is actually probably one of the easiest ones of all of them because it's just making all the different parts and sticking them on. There's no actually altering the bowl shape. I can't talk. So to do the paws, you're going to make 4 balls of clay that are the same size so that when you flatten them out, they're all the same. So 1 ball, 2 balls, 3 balls, 4 balls. Okay, so now you're going to flatten those balls out just a little bit. Okay. Oh, mine cracked a little bit there. You can squish that back together if it happens. Okay. And flatten them out. Okay, so I've got 4 flat discs now. Now I'm going to take, actually it can be whatever finger fits it best for the paw. So if you look at my bowl there, I've used my finger to flatten that out. So it fits my finger perfectly there. So it's my pointer finger that I used on these ones, not my thumb. So you're going to just kind of put a little indent in there with your finger, and you can literally just line them up like production style here and just, oh, mine cracked a little bit there. So we just line them up. Press down just a little bit. You can smooth it out a little bit if needed. And hope that's clear, guys, what I'm doing. So it's pressing it down, and then I just kind of slide it backwards there to just smooth it out a little bit. Then to do the claws, they're just holes. So you're just going to take your tool here, and you're just going to press in just like that. Okay? And you do that on all of your pieces. And then we glue them on. So let me, oh, I'm forgetting to score it. See? Been doing too many of them here. I'm forgetting steps. So we're gonna just put 1 on there. That's gonna be a hind foot. And score the water. And this is actually somewhere where you can use your finger to help press it down right where you were doing before. So you're really kind of attaching it at the same time as emphasizing that line. And then we're going to add a couple more. Okay. Okay, so I've got my 4 paws. Now we need to make head and tail. Okay? The tail is the trickiest part. You want to make sure you're using really soft clay for this part because as you roll it out really thin, it becomes quite dry. And that's when it starts cracking and it just doesn't attach as well as you want or mold the way that you're wanting. So be careful with it here, and we're going to use the whole part of our hand here to roll it out. You can see I'm kind of going back and forth as I'm rolling so that I get a nice long skinny tail. And the faster you can do this, the less it will dry out. I'm going to just take off some of that extra. It's getting a little longer than I need it to be, but I want to make it a little thinner. Okay, so now that is definitely longer than I need it to be, so I'm going to just kind of shape it the way that I want, figure out how long I want it to be, and I'm going to just put the rest of it in there. So I am going to put it down here because I've got a bit of a lump from where I was designing everything before, and I tend to lift up the bottom edge just that little bit, and I'm actually going to stick it underneath. So we're going to put it under there, then we squish it down so that the bowl is helping push it into my tail there. And then I can take my thing, and you don't want to have it hanging off like this or like that. You want to make sure that it's literally right up against your bowl, so that the bowl supports it, because when you use this, that little piece is going to be super fragile, and you want to make sure it has something to support it so it doesn't fall off, it doesn't break, and ruin your bowl later. So make sure that you do that, and once you've got it in place, you can start adding water to help make sure it sticks, because you want to make sure that it doesn't pop off either. Okay? I'm cracking a little bit down there. Okay, so we've got our tail, and now it's just our head. So the head is another ball of clay. Surprise, surprise. And we flatten it out. And mine's cracking because it's starting to get dry. See, this is why we want to make sure we keep it wrapped up in a bag when you're not using it, because mine is starting to dry out. Okay, so I've got my disc that is my head, and then I'm going to make all the different parts for two. So I'm going to make two smaller balls for the eyes, and I'll show you how to do the triangle for the nose and the triangles for the ears. So, oh, actually, I'm forgetting a spot there. I'm not looking at it closely. So there's actually two circles for the eyes, two circles for the snout, and then a triangle. Okay? And I use the line here to make the whiskers. So, I'm going to need a bit more clay there. We're going to make two tiny little balls for the snout. Okay? Make sure they're the same size, because otherwise the snout's going to be lopsided. Okay. Oh, actually mine is a little bit big there. See, it is going to be lopsided if I'm not careful. Okay. And then we flatten them into discs, just like that. And put a little water on them. And stick them down. So, looks like that. This could also be the eyes, depending on how you're doing things. I like making the eyes just a little bit bigger, though. The bigger the eyes, the cuter the animal. Okay, got one more ball there. In fact, the eyes can be lopsided because that does look cute too, especially on cartoons. In fact, I think I'm going to do that on mine. So I'm going to make one eye much bigger than the other. I have one that has two matching size eyes. Having two different sizes is good as well. So I'm going to just flatten that out into a disc. Mine's cracking there, so I'm just smoothing it out a little bit more. You don't want to add a lot of water. You can see I literally just dip my finger in the water and that's all the water I'm adding. You don't want to be using your sponge and getting pools of water here to help smooth it out. That is not going to be a good idea. Okay, so I think I've got all my cracks. You will notice that if you use too much water, it starts to become sludge and becomes gooey, and that is just no good. Okay, so I've got one really big eye. Looks a little weird right now, like an amoeba. I'm going to flatten out my other one. Okay, well, actually didn't crack that badly. We're going to put that one on beside it. So I've got my two eyes and my snout. Now I'm going to make the nose for my snout, and that one is actually a little bit smaller than the balls that I was making for the snout itself. Okay, and I'm going to roll it into a ball, and then you are flattening it a little bit so it still becomes a disc. Okay, but now I'm going to take 3 fingers and I pinch with 2 and kind of flatten with the top one. If that is easy enough to see. So it becomes a triangle. And if you want to, you can flatten it out a little bit more, but you really want to use those 3 fingers to make that triangle shape. And then you're going to add the water and stick it on top. Okay, and then I'm going to take my tool. So I'll show you what I've got so far. And then you're going to add your whiskers. So you want, generally 3 whiskers looks good. Okay, and then we're going to add 2 dots, so just 2 little holes for the eyes, and tend to wiggle it around just to make the hole a little bit bigger. Okay, and then we're going to add our ears. So again, 2 balls of clay, because otherwise they end up being the wrong size. Okay. Oh, no, that one's too big. There we go. 2 balls of clay, same size. So similar to how we did the nose, you are going to, well actually no, sorry, I'm not saying that right. You're going to roll it into more of a log. So it's kind of like the unicorn bowl. Okay, with what we did with the ears there. So you're going to make it into a log and you kind of make it a pointy end there, and then you're going to flatten it out. Oh, mine is cracking pretty bad there. I really should have wrapped my clay up. I'm going to smooth it out. Okay, so it's basically just a flat disc that is kind of triangular in shape. And now I want to make another one. So roll it into a log, make one end smaller so it comes up to a point, and then flatten it. Okay, why is it my second one's never crack as much as the first one? I don't know. Okay, so now we are going to indent that a little bit. So if you can do it with your finger, like we did with the unicorn, go for it. You could probably use the tool, or a pencil would work too, to just kind of get a bit of a curve there. And I kind of roll it a little bit because I don't want it to be just one little line. I want it to be matching the outside edge of my ears there. So And we'll do that with the other side too. Move my finger there first. Okay, so there, I've got my other ear, and these are definitely bigger than I need, so I'm going to trim them now that I've got them formed. I'm going to trim them so that they're the same length, so that my ears are the same size. You can make them different sizes, but I'm not sure if it really makes them cuter for that part. Then we add our water, and I stick it to the back of the head. So putting it on the back there, and careful not to squish all your facial features when you do this. Then we really kind of blend it in so that they don't fall off. We're going to put the other one on there. Oh, I didn't add water. Add the other ear. Goodness. Oh, it's sliding all over here. I added too much water. And you're going to blend it on. And now we have our cat face. And then you can attach that to your bowl. And this part, because it's got so much weight to it, I like to score this part. And I'll do the bowl too, because the bowl is starting to dry, so the longer we leave it, the harder it will be to squish things to it, because it starts to dry out. Okay. And there we have our cat bowl. I think he's cuter than my last one, actually. So, I do recommend the 2 different size eyes. Anyways, so that is my lesson today, guys. So, ooh, that was a little dusty. So I look forward to seeing you on the next video, and if you have any questions, by all means put them in the comments. We will happily answer any questions that you have. Our kits are available for sale on the website for clay. We just are getting a much bigger shipment of clay in this week, so we are well stocked for clay. In fact, it's pretty much what we're pushing here, I think, for the rest of our break. We'll call it a break, because it's there's just so much you can do with it. There's a limited amount of pottery that we can get in. Clay, you can make anything that you want, and it keeps you busy longer. It's great for the kids and yourself.